Hello, in this math video, I will do a GED math video regarding Pythagorean theorem. So, yeah, Pythagorean theorem, I like to think of it as right triangles only, where you can find missing side lengths. So this only work this only applies for a right triangle. Um, here, let me so let go ahead and get your notebook or your notes or a piece of paper. We're gonna go over some important rules. So Pythagorean theorem. So what is the Pythagorean theorem? It is this, go read. It's basically this, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, okay? Um, the a represents a leg, the b is also a leg, and then c is the hypotenuse. And I'll explain like how you can figure out what is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse will be the largest length. And there's a way you could figure it out. It's basically the opposite side. Here, let me show you. Like, let's pretend you have a right triangle like this. And then here's the box symbol. That's how you know it's a right triangle. Sometimes you have to draw your own right triangle. And this would be the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse is always facing the other side of the right triangle, right? So that's how you know you have the hypotenuse. And then it only works with right triangle only. So only works with right triangle only. And then you must have two known side lengths. If you don't, you probably have to use something else, and that'll be another story. But right now we're talking about Pythagorean, so they should give you two sides. Okay. Okay. Let's move on. If you need to pause the video, go ahead. So I'm gonna clear. Let's just start with question one. So a cable is attached from the top of a 20-meter tall pole to a point on the ground 30 meters away from the base of the pole. What is the length of the cable? Okay, so you do have to draw an image and you do got to draw it correctly. If you don't draw it correctly, you're in trouble. Um, so imagine you could draw you can draw it any way more than one way is correct, but you could draw the pole on the showing on the left side. So this could be the pole, right? And then let's see. And then this is the ground. And then this would be the cable. Okay. And then this forms a right triangle. So I'm going to put a little box symbol to indicate that it's a right triangle. And this is the ground. And they specifically said, let's see, what did they tell us? A cable is attached to the top of a 20-meter pole. So this vertical distance is 20 meters. And then the ground is 30 meters. So this horizontal distance is 30 meters. And then you have a cable. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is write my Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And what are they trying, then you got to ask yourself, what are we trying to find? What is the length of the cable? So the cable is also the hypotenuse. We said the C is the hypotenuse. And how do I know the cable is the hypotenuse? Is because the cable is facing directly across this box symbol. Okay. So we have everything we need to know. We have two legs, 20 and 30, right? One of my leg is 30 and my other leg is 20, but we don't know what C is, which is technically the cable, which is the hypotenuse. So fill in your blanks. So one of my leg was 20, so it's going to be 20 square. one of my other leg is 30, so that would be 30 square. And then my hypotenuse is c square. I don't know what c is. That's what we're trying to find out. So go ahead and get your calculator. What is 20 square? Or, or you could put this all in the put it all in once. 20 square plus 30 square is 1300 square. Wait, let me get out my calculator. So yes, 20 square is 400. 30 square is 900. What's 400 plus 900? 1300. And then that equals c square. And then what you're going to do is solve for c by taking the square root of both sides. So c equals square root of 1300. And if you look at that is technically our answer, but you don't see our answer in our choices. Why? Well, they simplified it. Now, on the exam, there's because you can use a calculator. So what if okay, let me tell you how to simplify square root. So what you got to do, this is definitely not a perfect square because can you think of a number times itself twice gives you 1300? Impossible, right? So it's not a perfect square, but you still can simplify it. Can you think of two numbers that will multiply 1300? It could be any two numbers. Yes, it would be 13 and 100. 13, then what you do is circle your prime numbers. 13 is prime. 100 is not. It can be broken down as 10 and 10, right? And then these are a pair of twos. So what happens is this 10 and 10 just becomes 10. And then inside is the prime number 13. Okay. So this is your final answer. Now, what if you didn't know how to simplify this, right? And like you didn't know how to simplify 1300. It's still multiple choice, and what you could do is put you could put 1300 in their calculator. So if you forgot how to simplify this, put square root of 1300 in the calculator and you get 36.055, right? Now, what you would do is test each one. If it gives you 30 close to 36.055, that would be the one. So automatically it's not B because we want 36.05. What about square root of 130? So if you put that in the calculator, that's about 11.40. And what about, so is that it? No, we want 30, can't be it. What about C? If you put 10 square root of 13 in the calculator, you get about 36.055. That's the one, right? That's the one. Because when you simplify it, you get 10 radical 13. And if you put it in the calculator, it's 36.055. So that's the closest one. All right, that's exactly the one. So it is C. Okay. Let's do question two. So question two is a word problem. It's does not give you an image. We're gonna have to draw an image and it has to be the correct image, right? So question two says, a ladder is leaning against the wall. If the ladder is 25 feet long and the bottom of the ladder is placed 7 feet away from the wall, how high is the top of the ladder from the ground? Okay, so imagine you have this triangle, this right triangle, and I guess you could say the vertical distance, this vertical height, would be the wall, and then this horizontal distance would be the ground. And then this slanted distance would be the ladder. Okay. So what to do? Okay, so then you fill in your blank. If the ladder is 25 feet, so this this slanted distance is 25. Blah blah blah. And it's placed 7 feet away from the wall. So where do we put that 7 feet? Well, it's not the wall distance, it's the ground distance. So it's going to be 7 feet. What are they asking? How high top of the ladder from the ground? So they want to know this vertical distance, right? How high the wall is, right? We'll call it X. You can call it any way you like. You can call it A or B or C, right? And let me put this little box symbol to represent right triangles. So we're definitely going to use Pythagorean theorem. And A is a leg, B is a leg, C is the hypotenuse. So do we have one of the leg? Yes. Our one of my leg is 7, so it's going to be a 7 square. Do we have another leg? Not yet. It's an unknown leg, so we'll call it X or X squared. And then do we have the hypotenuse? Yes, it is 25 squared. So clean this up. 7 squared is 49 plus X squared. I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to call it X squared. And then 25 squared is 625. Okay. So go ahead and solve for X. You're going to subtract 49 from both sides. So I get X squared equals to 625 minus 49 is 576. And then take the square root. And then the square root of 576 is perfect. It's actually 24. You don't have to, in the unlike the other problem, it wasn't a perfect square root. You had to do like you had to break it down and then simplify it. But this is a perfect square because if you put it in the calculator, it'd be 24. Or can you think of a number times itself twice gives you 576? Yes, 24 times 24 gives you 576. Okay, so that is letter A. Okay, so that is letter A. Let's move on to the last one. Okay, question 3. Here we have a triangle or two triangles, or actually three triangles if you really see it. What is the value of x plus y? So we got to figure out the length of x. We have to figure out the length of y. So do you see two triangles? Do you see, let's call this triangle 1 and then this triangle 2, right? So if you want, you could break it down. You can redraw it by drawing two separate triangles. So it would look like this. Here's the first triangle. This length is 9. This vertical distance is 5. And this unknown length or this hypotenuse is x. So let's find x by using Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So do we have one of the legs? Yes. 9 squared. Do we have another leg? Yes. 5 squared. And then do we have the hypotenuse? Yes. X squared. So 9 squared is 81, 5 squared is 25, right? You could, I mean, I did that in my head, but if you didn't know that, put in the calculator. Like in your calculator, just do 9 and then the caret sign and then 2. Same thing with 5. So 5 caret sign 2. And then 81 plus 25 is 106. And then you get x squared and then solve for x. You're going to take the square root. So x is square root of 106. Let's just leave it like that for right now. So this length here is square root of 106. Now let's look at the other triangle, triangle 2. So if you want to redraw it, that's fine. On this triangle, this is 3, this is 5, and then the hypotenuse is 5. So we definitely could do Pythagorean theorem. So it would be 3 squared plus 5 squared equals y squared. So 3 squared is 9, 5 squared is 25 equals y squared. And then 9 plus 25 is 34. Take the square root. we get y equals square root of 34. Okay, so we found our y and we found our x. So our x is square root of 106 and my y is square root of 34. So put it all, they want to know what x plus y is. So x was square root of 106 plus y is square root of 34. And as you can see, they didn't simplify it because I see my answer as C. Okay, so that is an introduction to Pythagorean theorem and right triangles. Let me check my work real quick. Perfect. Okay, we can stop here.